it looks like it's freezing. All right, hopefully this works out tonight. The weather is crazy here in Pennsylvania. We have some rain, some wind, and all of that. So sometimes internet doesn't want to work so great. So hopefully you all can hear me. If you are on live, if you can hear me, please feel free to comment. Put your questions in. Let me know where you're from. Tonight, I would love to make this more interactive if we can get the Facebook Live to work well. So I have some questions. All right, so for those of you who are brand new to my broadcasts, my name is Jamie Casarda. I'm your holistic pet mentor, which means I like to fill that gap. I bridge the gap between your pet care at home and your veterinarian's office. So all the things in between. I also help people who don't have a holistic veterinarian in their area who maybe want to learn some ways to take care of their pets more naturally at home, or maybe you want to go completely holistic and take care of your pet that way. I'm the person to help you get started with all of that. Or maybe you want to use less medications with your pets and you're like, you know what, my pet's not deficient in medications. There's got to be a natural way to support their body. I can completely help you in that area and help keep your pet healthy in a natural way, right? So tonight I want to talk about something that I have a lot of practice with. Over 20 years experience of trying to get animals to eat, right? So this broadcast, what we're going to talk about today, is for those of you who have picky pets, but it can also be for those of you who maybe your pets aren't picky yet. They aren't being picky yet, but they may get picky later. So let's prevent the picky eaters, shall we? Okay. So for those of you who are on live, and for those of you who are watching the replay, play along. It will be so much more fun. All right. So go ahead and share in the comments. Do you feed your pet from a bowl like this beautiful dog bowl? Do you use a bowl, or do you use a flat surface such as a plate? Bowl or plate? How do you feed your pets? Now, of course, I'm going to share with you how I feed my pets, and you probably could guess the answer, right? Do you think I feed from a bowl? Hi, Mary. So I feel like I'm like yelling like people are far away. Hi, Mary. I don't have to do that. It's so awkward talking to yourself on Facebook Live, just so you guys know. If you haven't done it yet, try it. Try it. It's real interesting. All right, so what do bowls and plates have to do with picky eaters? Well, let me tell you some things I've learned over the years. So let me start back to while I was being a veterinary technician and feeding sick animals, right? Animals that had illnesses or were coming out of surgery, or they were not eating right, all these type of things. So we had to coax these animals to eat. We had to get creative with how they would be coaxed into eating. So some things that I did, and I never thought about switching their dish. That never occurred to me, and no one ever suggested it back then, 20 years ago. So even while I was a child and raising pets and taking care of animals, never thought to try anything but a bowl. Why would I try anything but a bowl? What's wrong with a bowl? Of course, you feed them in a bowl, right, Mary? Right? So, I can't wait to share this stuff with you. Anyhow, I start to get ahead of myself because I get so excited about certain topics. So, all right. So what I used to do was like I would, we were feeding dry kibble. We thought that was the standard. Like, yeah, just get them a good kibble. And we would maybe throw some canned food on there, right? We got to make sure, if you're feeding a dog, you got to make sure you're putting more dog food, right? We got to put some canned food in there. And sometimes that would work. And then I would go, oh, what if I add some water? So for some dogs, I would add water to their dry kibble, and that would get them interested in their food again. Woohoo, that would work. Some dogs that wouldn't work. And then cats. What about a picky cat? They stopped eating. It was like, oh, I don't know what to do for them, right? Because they didn't want water in their food, not in their dry food, not mixed together like that, right? So we would try stinky canned food, and sometimes that would work. All right, well, those things can work sometimes, but why are we having to do that? Why are we having to fancy up their food? maybe the food that they're eating is something that they're tired of eating. They get bored of eating the same thing day in and day out, just like we do, right? Or it could be the dish that you're feeding them in, right? It could be the dish that they're in. There's something about it that's making them uncomfortable. So I found that some animals actually hate eating out of bowls. They don't like it. So why do we keep doing this to them, right? So another thing that I used to do is mix the dry and the canned together. And then these companies started coming out with pet toppings, right? Oh, this is a topper for your pet's food. This will get them to eat their dog food. So there would be like these stinky pastes, and there would be these liquid gooey juices that smelled horrible that you would just pour over your dog's food. Um, there would be all kinds of things, or maybe we would put some scraps from our dinner table and just mix it in, and our dogs would hold out for that because they wouldn't eat their dry kibble after we did that. They wanted whatever we were eating mixed in with it. So I started wondering, like, why do we have to do all these things if dog kibble's so great, if it's so good for them? Same with the cats, it's so good for them. So it's actually, you know, so many years into my journey here, I've been a holistic pet mentor for the last 4 years. And it was 4 years ago when I started diving deeper into pet nutrition and taking courses on, interpreting pet food, right? Becoming a pet food nutrition specialist, and then diving into the world of raw feeding. And it was such an eye opener. So it started getting me thinking about letting pets have a choice. Why aren't we giving them choices with their food? Another thing that got me thinking about this topic of picky eaters is actually how we choose essential oils with pets. And it seems like the two don't go together, but if you know a woman's mind, everything goes together. Everything's connected, right? So I was reading this book on animal self-medication by Caroline Ingraham. Great book. It's about zoopharmacognosy. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Pharmacognosy. Yeah, I'm saying it right. Zoopharmacognosy. And it's self-medication. It's how animals in the wild, she had studied animals in the wild and how they medicated themselves without veterinarians or people involved, and they healed themselves. And they used it through choosing different herbs and plants to rub against or to chew on, or even they would chew on something to make them vomit if they were having something going on in their digestive tract, or even eat something that has poison in it, right? A poisonous plant that would deworm them, right? So animals do this instinctively in the wild. And so she then started studying animals in captivity in the zoo and started seeing how they can still choose their different plant material and things that they need to eat that would help them heal. So it works in the zoo setting. And then she thought, I wonder if our pets, our domesticated pets, still have this instinct. And so she studied farm animals, so your goats and pigs and horses, and she found that they still have that instinct. And then she thought, let's take it another step. Do our dogs and cats still have this instinct? And guess what? They do. They do. And so that is why we always offer our pets the essential oils before we apply that to them. We apply it to them topically. So that's why I say, if you have an oil like frankincense that maybe there's a couple oils that are good for the nervous system, and you pick out frankincense and you pick out balance and you pick out copaiba, and you say, I wonder which one I should use. Well, we let our pets choose. So you open up the bottle, hold the bottle tight, and let your pet come forward and smell that oil. So I hold it kind of a foot or so across. You can, if your pet is very sensitive to aroma, because it's very strong out of the bottle, you can leave the lid on and still offer it that way. And you'll know if your pet is sensitive to smells, okay? My Buddha kitty, I can take the lid off. He actually is great with that. And he'll come forward and smell it on his own, and I know right away if he likes it because he'll lick, and he usually will come back again for more. And I notice Reese does the same thing. He picks his oils before I apply it to him. So why aren't we doing the same thing when we feed our pets? So that's what led me to thinking, why aren't we giving our pets a choice when it comes to their food? If I'm letting them choose which essential oils are best for them and letting them use their instinct, then we can apply that knowledge to how we feed them. So I started offering, and I started doing this 4 years ago when I switched Buddha to raw. He had never seen that texture before. He wouldn't even eat like turkey at Thanksgiving if I gave him little bits of turkey. He had no idea what it was because he had been fed dry kibble for such a long time. And he had digestive issues almost all of his life. And he was, you know, he would gulp his food. He was never chewing it, right? He'd throw it right back up. And I thought, man, this is such a waste. So when I switched him over to raw, it was a process. I had to start mixing it little by little. And he just did not like eating from the bowl. When I was offering him moist food or raw food, even with it mixed, he was acting weird about it being in the bowl. And I thought, well, I'm going to try it on a plate. Maybe there's something about him sticking his face in, and he does the same thing with his water bowl. So he has a gigantic water bowl now. So he has to have a really big water bowl because Buddha likes to go in and dig the water to see what level it's at. And so I think he was having the same issue with his food. So what I decided to do is to switch to a plate. Now, I don't use a gigantic plate like this for Buddha. I use a little bit smaller plate, but you can, for your dogs or bigger dogs, you can use a bigger plate, or you can use what's called a pet platter. And I'll go into the pet platter a little bit more in detail because it's really, really cool. But I just use a plate for now. I don't have a pet platter yet, but I think I will be getting one for Reese because it's awesome. Anyhow, all right, so I started offering his canned and raw food on a plate, and it changed everything. Buddha started eating it, and not only did he eat it, he loved it, and he devours his food. But it has to be on a plate, okay? Now, why is that? Is it just being a picky cat? No, it's because it's actually much more natural for our pets to eat off of a flat surface than from a bowl. Okay, so think about if pets didn't have people feeding them, right? So there are wild cats, there are wolves outside. Okay, they don't have bowls to feed them. They eat off the ground. They have to forage. They have to dig. They have to root to get certain things. They have to tear. So they're using, it's a very stimulating experience to eat. And when you have everything kind of piled up in a bowl, it's a lot less interesting. So now you have a boring dry kibble that you put in a boring bowl. Okay? And so we want to simulate what would be natural for our pets. And you're going to see that your pets are a lot less picky when you're providing a more natural way to feed them. So at first I thought this was, okay, really? Can't I just use a bowl? Well, I started doing this with Buddha, and he eats great now. I've been doing this for 4 years, feeding him in a bowl or on a plate. I mean, not in a bowl, and we don't have any feeding issues anymore. And he's completely, he gets raw mixed with a little bit of canned, gets his mushroom powder, his psyllium husk. He's good to go. Eats a lot. He put on a bunch of weight over the years, which he needed to because he was super skinny 4 years ago. He went through a health crisis, which scared the heck out of me. But he is great now that he's fully transitioned to raw and all natural pet care and all that. So when Reese came to us, he was used to being fed in a bowl, but he was kind of known as being a picky eater. He's very picky. That's what I was told, that he's a picky eater. And I continued to feed him in a bowl until recently. I thought, I'm going to try feeding him on a plate, because when I switched Buddha to a plate, he started eating a lot better. And wouldn't you know, game changer. He eats awesomely. He eats all his food right away. He doesn't let it sit. And he's eating every little bit of it now. Whereas when he was in a bowl, it was getting mushed in the corners and he wasn't eating all his food. We were wasting a lot of that. And when you're feeding raw, you don't want to waste any of it, right? Because every little bit is precious. So that's my main suggestion. Number one, use a plate when you're feeding your dog or cats, okay? And you're going to help mitigate or ward off picky eating. That's one way to do it. Another way is feed them as naturally as possible and switch up the protein. Now, I know we are often told to just pick one food and stick with it. But when you're not feeding kibble, when you're feeding kibble, yeah, sure, you pretty much have to stick to the same thing, because when you start switching it around, it causes digestive upset because kibble has a lot of carbs and grains and starchy stuff in it. And our pets can't digest it very well. They don't make enough amylase to properly break it down. It's not the best quality. There's just a lot of fillers. There's a lot of synthetic vitamins in there. And we know some cat foods have those addictive salts that they're laced with, so that your cat wants to eat it all. So, yeah, Mary, try it. Try it. So what I suggest is going as naturally as you can possibly afford, whether you can do a high quality canned. I've been using Nature's Logic with Reese. You can use raws. From's not that bad. I look at the ingredients and I think, wow, this is pretty good. It's pretty good. Or you could do a freeze dried and mix it with some warm broth. Hey, Bobby Joe. Or if you can go raw, go raw. Or you could start mixing some fresh food in with their canned or in with their raw. So it's okay. It's okay, especially if your pet is on a raw diet. It seems that they can handle the changes in protein, and you can even change from one raw food to another raw food without any issues. So, for instance, Reese is used to Stella and Chewy raw food, and I can mix in Answer's Pet with that, and he's not going to have any digestive issues. So raw for raw. I also noticed that I can switch him from lamb to turkey to venison to beef, and he has no issues. It doesn't cause diarrhea. It doesn't throw up. There's no issues there. I have learned that he doesn't like certain things. So he doesn't like salmon. I tried doing salmon, canned food. He did not like that. He does not like when I add fish oil to his dog food. So I had to stop doing that because he was avoiding it, anything that has a fish smell to it. Whereas my cat, however, loves salmon. So you've got to let your pets have some choice. So if you're feeding the same thing day in and day out and you go, I don't understand. My dog used to like this food and he doesn't like it anymore. Try switching it up. Okay, especially if you're on a canned or a freeze dried or a raw, you're likely to not have many issues. If you are on a dry food, if you are feeding your pet a dry, start mixing in something like a canned or a freeze dry or a raw, just to start introducing that to them and making their food more interesting again. Okay, and you don't have to lace it with those stinky, gooey toppers. Now, there are some, Stella and Chewy's does have some like gravy, canned gravy stuff, or they have it in like a little box. And that's, I mean, that's a meal in itself. But if you want to pour some of that over their dry, just to start introducing them to a higher moisture diet, that's a really good idea. Okay. It's not going to make your pet's teeth rot faster. Okay, raw diet doesn't make their teeth rot faster. They have all the enzymes they need to digest a raw diet. And then if you're going to put vegetables in there, you want to make sure you puree them and chop them up really, really small, or just puree them. And or you can add fermented vegetables, and then they'll digest that better as well, and you'll see less tartar buildup. Make sure that you are doing something about their mouth, whether you're brushing their teeth with some coconut oil, or making your own pet toothpaste like I talked about in a previous video with some myrrh and on guard, and I use some peppermint in Reese's. So yeah, that's another video, so I won't go into that. But the dry kibble will stick to their teeth, and there are a lot of carbs in the kibble, and pets don't have a lot of amylase in their saliva, so they're not going to break that down very well. Okay, so don't be afraid to try the canned, which is a high protein. Look for high protein and low grain, low starch, and try it raw. Okay, And so you'll see that you'll have a less picky pet. They're going to be excited about meals again. They're going to be excited about meals, and they're going to eat their food, and they're going to maintain their weight. They're going to have a healthier weight. When you take them off of a kibble, you're going to be lowering their carbs, and you're going to improve their protein and their fat ratio. And you're going to see that they start losing some of that extra chub that they might be carrying around. Okay. And I hear this a lot with people who are feeding dry kibble and their pets are overweight, but their pets never want to eat. So it's like, how are they overweight? They hardly ever eat. Let me know if this is you, okay? Because I've seen this a lot, and it's because they are storing all of that excess carbohydrate that's turning into sugar. They're storing it as fat, okay? So when you lower the carbohydrates and the grains and all of that, and you improve the meat protein and the fats with dogs, and with cats especially, their weight is so much better. So I hope that taught you guys something. It took me, 20 years to figure this out? Okay. Now let me tell you about one of the coolest pet platters, okay, that you can use for your dog. I'm sure you could use this for a cat too. They probably have a cat one. I wish I could go over there. I don't know if I'd lose my Facebook Live if I click on the link. Anyhow, it's called Mine Pet Platter. And what it does, it is a platter, and they have cute little shapes and they have different colors, and it encourages licking, foraging, tracking, and other stimulating feeding behaviors. There's little grooves in these platters, so it's got like little dips in there, and so when you sprinkle the food on, whether you're still feeding kibble or whether you want to put some coconut oil and smear that on, or whether you make a turmeric paste for your dog and you smear that on, and then you put little batch of raw meat here and offer a little slice of banana here and some fermented veggies over here, and you can split it all up, kind of like what little kids do instinctively. They say, oh no, my food can't touch. Well, you can actually see what types of foods your pet likes the most or what they're craving by sectioning them off. So I did that with Reese. I actually put some raw food in one section, and I put the canned food in the other, and he went right for the raw, and he ate that first. And then the first time I did it, he ate the raw first, and then he ate the canned. And then the second time I did it, he only wanted the raw, and he didn't want the canned. So you can let them choose, and then you could also like chop up different vegetables, you could chop up different fruit, and just kind of get to see what your dog's palate is like by keeping it all separated. But it keeps things interesting for them, doesn't it? It does seem like a Pet Parent 2.0 thing to do, but it actually is just great for their mental health. It's great for their well-being. Anything we can do to keep our pets living longer, healthier lives, right? Why not try it? And it's more fun for us, the pet parents, as well. It's fun to see our pets enjoy their meals again, to be interested and curious and doing natural behaviors such as licking and foraging and rooting around their plate and just getting excited for their meals again. So let me know if you put any of these tips to work. Let me know how it works out for you. I hope you guys had a great end of October, Halloween. So that was it's always a fun night to see all the kids out and enjoying themselves. And then now it's November. It's November. So we've got an exciting week ahead of us, don't we? So, all right, everybody, let me know if you are going to try this plate or if you're going to try the platter. If you want to look up the platter, it's called Mine Pet Platter. And it's a really cool concept, and it's been around for quite a while, but it's a really fun thing to do for your pets. So, all right, thanks for watching. Have a great night. Bye-bye.